Welcome back to Lost in Roshar, the ultimate journey through the Stormlight Archive. I'm Christian Kremling.
And I'm Jimmy Stormblessed. Today, we are diving into chapters 54 and 55 of The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. We're going to be covering all of the Stormlight Archive with full spoilers. So if you haven't read the other books, we'll see you later. For everyone else, welcome back to the podcast. Christian, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good, mate. I'm surrounded by my little Stormlight dolls. I've been setting up the bridge runs and playing God. No, it's not that bad. But I did get my figures this week. And they have adorned my shelf, and they shall gather dust for years to come.
So can you tell people about this, like what the Kickstarter was? Because I don't know if everyone was aware of the Kickstarter.
Yeah, when I posted about it, some people didn't know about it. So Brotherwise Games, the people who are making the Stormlight RPG, the tabletop RPG, they did a Kickstarter in 2022, I think, to do Stormlight figures, because Sanderson said his dream was to have like a desk, an epic desk feature from like a Stormlight thing. Hence the giant Kaladin versus Szeth statue, which is bloody amazing.
It's so big.
Yeah, it's massive. And then from that, they kind of went the Warhammer way and did a bunch of minifigs that you paint with your magnifying glass, I suppose, and your tiny little brush as you hum to yourself the Stormlight soundtrack. I don't know. Those are in a box because I'm not going to do that yet. I don't have the time nor the accuracy to paint those things. But I do have a giant chasm fiend that I showed you earlier.
It is giant.
It's awesome. And as Christian Gremling, I feel like that's the one I'll paint up. But yeah, there's a bunch of painted ones too, of pretty much all the main characters. And I've strategically placed them to the book that they align to, as you do. But yeah, if you want to see it, go to my Twitter or on my YouTube page. On the community tab, I posted a picture of my shelves with the cool figures. They're awesome, man.
They look really, really cool. I saw you post them, and most times when Kickstarters come out, I don't end up backing them, and about 100% of the time I go, oh man, I wish I would have. And this is one of those times where I'm like, I kind of wish I would have backed this one, especially for the Kaladin statue. It's so preposterously big that I would just love to have that on a shelf somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, it's the perfect thing for a Stormlight fan. The others, like I could, that it's for enthusiasts of that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, as a fan, it's awesome. I regret not getting the physical copies for the secret projects. That's what I regret. I did all digital.
I ended up getting Yumi and Sunlit Man. I don't care about the frugal wizard dude or whatever his name is.
I don't care about that. You didn't get Tress?
I got the Tor version of Tress. I did not get the secret because I didn't back it, but they had extra copies, and I just didn't really like Tress that much to go and spend an extra, whatever it was, 60, 70, 80 bucks. Right. But Yumi, what a beautiful addition. I mean, I really think that's one of the coolest books. And I think Sunlit Man looks great in person. I wasn't as impressed with it online, but when you get it in person, it looks really good. So I have those two. Maybe one day I'll find a Tress somewhere, but honestly, I'm not terribly worried about it. Do I wish I would have probably backed it? Maybe. I don't know. It was a lot of money at the time.
It was a lot. I just couldn't justify it, and I was in a bit of a minimalist zone. I'm like, I'm not going to own physical copies, and now I'm like buying statues and stuff. So that went to crap. But what I did buy this week was the Yumi UK edition. Oh, and now nice. every UK edition now has a glorious Petrick review on the back, which is fun to see. It's so weird seeing someone review on a book. Shows how much cred people like us are getting. Although we're never going to be, on the back of a book.
Yeah, we were just talking about before we hit record. We were just talking about how we might be maybe too negative. Maybe we're a little too negative because we talk about the things we like and we don't like about not just Stormlight, but like the cosmere in general, right? And I'm reading through Era 2. Christian has finished it, and I have complaints. I have things I don't like, but I will say this. Listen, I've been hounding Alloy of Law on this podcast. We're on episode 30 for 30 episodes. I think I've mentioned it at least every episode how much I don't like that book.
Yeah.
Shadows of Self is far better. And I don't think it's mind-blowing. I don't love it. There's certainly things I could critique. But I will say this. it feels really good to be in the Mistborn world. And this is my hot take for the week.
Oh, let's hear it.
I think I like the world building. Maybe not world building. The magic. I think I like it more in Mistborn than Roshar.
Jimmy Bate on Lost in Roshar.
I know.
Saying such blasphemy.
I think hemalurgy and allomancy and just the way it all interacts, like the Khandra and Bleeder. Like I was just like, man, I really like this world. Like I'm a big fan of this, even if the story and the characters in the era 2 aren't really grabbing me much. I will say that I just love the possibilities of those different systems together. I think that it makes for really compelling, unique story elements. Now, Roshar has that too, so don't get me wrong. I still love that. But I was just thinking, like, you know, for someone who's very mixed on Era 1 as well, I was like, I do love this portion of this story very much.
I agree with you that it's probably his strongest magic system and arguably the coolest. I mean, hemalurgy, just the spikes, just pretty metal.
Hemalurgy's really cool. And I gotta say, the whole religious aspect that he's playing with in Era 2 is very interesting as well, with having the Survivorist and then having the other group that I can't remember the name of. He's doing some really cool stuff with that. And I think that maybe he just set himself up because there's so much of it to track that he has a big pool to pull from. I will say, by the way, Warbreaker's magic system, I actually love. I love Warbreaker's magic system as well. But, you know, for all the things I have to say about Mistborn, I will say that I am thoroughly enjoying the magical elements.
Yeah, the magical elements were the strongest thing for me in Era 2. I think Stormlight's always going to be my favorite. I just think it's I like the ethereal nature of Stormlight, and I like the quirky nature of Spren. It's quirky done right, whereas quirky can be done very wrong in ways that like don't jive with me. Like I was telling Jimmy, like I had a great time reading Era 2, but every time I talk to Jimmy about it, I'm kind of whinging. Because I just need to get it off my chest. Because for every amazing scene in Era 2, there's just a line or a bit of banter. I'm just like, oh, like you could do this, but it could just be not as cringy or whatever. So like I got to the point where I just shrugged it off. I'm like, this is what it is, you know, accept it. And the more he dove into certain characters, the more I got it, but still in the execution, it could pull me out of certain scenes. And I read Stormlight today, and I just think I love this tone, and I love the way he's going with it. And I can take lift, but I can't take. It doesn't ruin Stormlight for me for some reason. Not that Wayne ruined Era 2. It's hard to talk about because I know everyone's got very strong feelings, and I don't want to sound like I don't like it. But the jokes just do not land for me 99% of the time.
I need to be abundantly clear that I like Stormlight far more than Mistborn. I'm relatively close, but it's just that the magical elements, it's a close race for me. It's a really, really close race. I will say reading these 2 chapters and then having read Shadows itself, I also enjoy the tone of Stormlight far more.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit, it feels like it has a little bit more weight to it, I guess is the best way to say. But you have me excited. You finished Era 2 and you said, listen, say what you want about Era 2, but Lost Metal's cosmere stuff, and then like what we'll be able to talk about on the show once I've read it. That has me excited. This show is a vehicle to get me into the other stuff in the cosmere, because otherwise, I honestly probably wouldn't be reading it. So I'm excited. I'm excited, and I'm enjoying the little detective story that we're getting in Shadows of Self. It's nothing mind blowing, but it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, my hot take is Shadows was my favorite out of the 4 books. Even after the Lost Metal, the cosmere roller coaster ride that it was, I think Shadows is the best Era 2 book.
Some say Lost Metal is his finest work.
Some do say that. I would disagree with that, but it's definitely got some of his coolest stuff. I'll give him that. Very cool stuff.
Well, you must not be too burnt out because you've also started Elantris.
Dude, I closed the Lost Metal. I watched some discussion videos. I went on Reddit, checked out what people picked up on, and then I opened Elantris about an hour later. And man, talk about a different tone again. Serious Sando has reared his head. And to be fair, like everyone's like the writing in Elantris is rough or whatever. At least in my first 20 pages, I'm like, this is good. but like that's 20 pages. You know, it's basically him describing the world and setting up Raoden going into Elantris, which was like very eerie and cool and like.
Oh, the setting is second to none from him. I mean, and the premise of Elantris is really awesome. I like when Sanderson takes a more serious tone.
I love it. I could feel him like he's really trying to make this like ethereal, mysterious fantasy world, which is which grabs me way more. As cool as Mistborn is, it's very mathematical and very scientific. It feels sci-fi. You know, at times, when they're trying to figure out the magic, it's very scientific. But I like a good mystery, you know. And even though Stormlight is kind of heading that same way, I like at best when it's a mystery, when we're figuring out things and it's confusing. So the very initial 1% of Elantris that I've read is great, but you know, I've read all the warnings. And everyone says it's his worst. I would argue nothing will be worse than Alloy of Law. So I think I'll be fine.
I think you'll be just fine. And I will say, you know, us reading books kind of closer together, it always makes it at least something to talk about. So it makes it a more enjoyable experience, I would say, because we're both, you know, we're both pretty balanced when it comes to it, and we're always open to hear criticisms or praises or whatever we have to say about the book. So it is more fun. I'm hoping to get to Elantris, I would say probably early summer, and that'll be the last Sanderson I read until Stormlight 5, because I don't want to burn out.
Yeah, don't do
on him. Now that's what happened with Rhythm of War. I basically burn out on Sanderson into Rhythm of War, then had a very mixed experience, and I do think some of that is attributed to the fact that I had read thousands of pages from the man. I needed to chill a little bit.
You did like all of Stormlight in a row, right?
And I hadn't read Mistborn too far from that, and it was a lot. It was a lot.
But fear not, guys. I will continue my cosmere journey. Burnout or no, I shall power through Elantris.
Putting that burden on your back, man.
Oh, mate, I'm carrying the whole cosmere on my back. Just to point out, like, oh, the guy with the yellow teeth in chapter 17 of Wind and Truth, he's from, you know, I will do it. So I know.
This is actually an homage to the first artist of White Sand, not the second.
Oh, White Sand. See, that's another one. So, yeah. White Sand, you know, has me the most interested out of all the works.
Really?
Yes, it does. Not in its form factor, but in its world. And in its relevance to the cosmere. So whenever that, I'm going to read the as it stands, the graphic novel, but I think when he makes that a novel, right after Stormlight 5, he's doing it. When that becomes a novel, I think that'll be a banger, because there's characters from White Sand that are all over Stormlight and Mistborn. Like some of the biggest characters in the cosmere are originating from that series.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I will read it once it's novelized. Here's a weird one. A Sanderson book that I am very excited to try is Steelheart, which is Reckoners. It's like his YA dystopian urban fantasy thing.
Oh, okay.
I am really intrigued by this because I like dystopian post-apocalyptic stuff. It's just like it's a genre that I can read schlock from. Like it can literally be garbage, and I'm like, it was okay. Like I'll just like it because of what it is. It's kind of like horror movies for me. I'll watch some of the worst B horror movies of all time, but because they're horror, that I like them. Here's the pitch for Reckoners and Steelheart. 10 years ago, calamity came. It was a burst in the sky that gave ordinary men and women extraordinary powers. The awed public started calling them epics, but epics are no friend of man. With incredible gifts came desire to rule, and to rule man, you must crush his will. Nobody fights the epics. Nobody but the Reckoners. A shabby group of ordinary humans. They spend their lives studying epics, finding their weaknesses, and then assassinating them. And David wants in. He wants Steelheart, the epic who is said to be invincible, the epic who killed David's father.
Oh, hell yeah.
Right? Yes. Yeah, you knew it was coming. For years, like the Reckoners, David's been studying and planning, and he has something they need, not an object, but an experience. He has seen Steelheart bleed, and he wants revenge.
Oh, dude. Look, say what you will about our man Sando. The dude knows how to like capitalize on an awesome concept. All these books have amazing concepts.
It's also just the most YA thing ever that this evil person killed this person's father, avenge it. I mean, it's like, Nevernight by Jay Kristoff has the exact same. It's
dude. Let me tell you something. You know what threw me? David. We got Kaladin, Rayoden.
He's like, ordinary humans. David is the one.
Like Sando's main character, David. That is just a shocker.
He's going to go get Tim, and then they're going to go beat some cheeks. Like, they're just going to absolutely wreck these people.
Yeah. Look, that's a series I've never think about. But you go, Jimmy. You'd let me know how that is.
Found a first edition, first print autographed edition in San Antonio in this random bookstore, and I bought it for $15. And it's worth way more than that now. So,
dude. Oh, you know how much White Sand Volume 1 costs?
At
least in Australia, it's like $600.
Yeah,
it's nowhere to be found. So I'm waiting for the omnibus, which releases here in I think a couple days. So I'll get that, and off I go.
And then off you go. I'm looking it up right now and trying to see it, but I'm having trouble.
It must be out of print because it's like everywhere I look, someone's selling it for hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, I wonder what's up with that.
I feel like they just stopped the original. I think they're trying to like low key sweep that under the rug that it was a graphic novel and just get it.
And just we're gonna pretend that never happened. Well, I suppose we should jump in. I suppose we should jump into the task at hand, right?
Oh, we probably should do that. Hey.
Yeah. So we're going to be getting into chapter 54 and 55, and this is going to be Dalinar POV and then a Kaladin POV. These are two very good chapters. I very much enjoyed them, and they both have interesting epigraphs, I will say, death rattles. So chapter 54 is called Gibletish, and the death rattle is as follows. The burdens of 9 become mine. Why must I carry the madness of them all? Oh, Almighty, release me. I don't have where it's cited from because I'm reading off of the website.
Should I finish?
Yeah, finish it if you don't mind.
Dated, Palahar says, 1173. Unknown seconds pre-death. Subject, a wealthy light eyes. Sample collected second hand. Ooh. Second hand.
That's not very reliable.
Was it the safe hand?
I wanted to ask you this. So the death rattles are supposed to be all in the future, right?
So far, yes. But this breaks the mold a little.
That's what I'm saying, because I think we know what we think this is, right? This is
Taln being tortured. But why? Well, because I think our new format as of last week is we do both death rattles to start the show.
I'm down. Yeah, we can do both.
Because the next one, do you want to read the next one and then we can because they're kind of related in some way.
Okay, yeah. And remember, we can look back at last week's too, because that might also link, right? Because we're pairing these chapters together arbitrarily. We don't really have true pairs. We're definitely talking about some end game stuff here, I think, with some of these. But the next one is a woman sits and scratches out her own eyes. Daughter of kings and winds, the Vandal.
Dated Palahavan, 1173, 73 seconds pre-death. Subject, a beggar of some renown, known for his elegant songs. Oh, sweet. He is Ed Sheeran in Roshar.
Okay, man.
Did you get this one?
This one's tough.
Oh, come on, man. We were just here. We were just here in the interludes, dude. Come on, who's slashing out her own eyes?
Yeah, you're right. What's her name? I forgot.
Shalash.
Shalash, that's right, because she's going and she's destroying her stuff. A woman sits and scratches out her own eyes. Daughter of kings and winds, the Vandal.
Because her dad is Yezrian, who's known as the King of the Heralds. So it's like
so this isn't even a prediction though. This is like almost like current day, right?
Yeah. So these two feel like current day. Like Talon's up in the getting tortured, being like, "Oh, this sucks," and Shalash is destroying depictions of herself. So these are
Yeah.
more current than future.
And we know Talon is about to be released, right? Oh,
Yeah, it's about to
Almighty,
come
release me.
because the thing is, right, that there could be a twist here, a good old Sander twist.
Okay.
Maybe it isn't him. Maybe it's someone else. Maybe it's a different herald.
Well, I was trying to figure that out, but I was like, I don't know who it would be.
Well, I've got the whole theory that Shallan's mum's a herald,
Mm.
and then Shallan killing her mum kicked off this whole thing. Especially because the line when the Everstore comes was like the world was ending and it was all Shallan's fault. Like that's a line from Words of Radiance, which just feels beautiful. If that theory is correct. Although I think this is just kind of Talon, as we understand. I can't really weasel another reason out of it, or why it would be one other herald. It's just so, unless it's like the whole thing happens again, but with new heralds, and this is like Kaladin or something. But I doubt it.
Yeah. I think this is Talon. I'm gonna sometimes we have to pick and choose our battles.
Yeah.
This isn't a hill I'm willing to die on.
No, we move on.
Yes. And I do think you've definitely cracked chapter 55. So I mean that's definitely Shalash, and it's very clever.
Yeah, it's cool. And it's like placed right there, right after.
And it also makes you realize that maybe we shouldn't take things so literally and we should think more about these things, right? Like George R. R. Martin does this a lot, where people read the exact words on the page, but it has a totally different meaning if you look at it in a different way, right? Especially when it comes to prophecies. But I like that. I like that this now has kind of made me think maybe the other stuff shouldn't have been taken so literally.
The death rattles are just the best.
Yeah, we need to do a full death rattle episode where we read every death rattle
and just go.
Yeah, and try to paint pictures.
The only thing I regret not mentioning last episode. Remember how we're looking at Dalinar's chapter symbol?
Yeah,
and you're like, "Ooh, what's that behind? What is that?"
Yeah.
And then I don't know, just doing more Stormlight stuff during the week, and Zeth's background is also that scratched out. So my mind went in two places. One was like, oh, it's just an artistic choice to keep them consistent. Another was like, what moment is Zeth and Dalinar and the Colons sharing here? If they've both got the same background and these are meant to be scenes in the future, what is this black night behind them? I think it's only them two that share that background. Do you think it's something, or do you think it's just an artistic choice?
I'm going to go with artistic choice for now.
Okay.
I reserve to change my mind later. But as of right now, I'm kind of striking out all, I mean, obviously it could be the sun dying out and the blackness and both of them being there in that exact moment or having something to do with it, possibly. Sure. Maybe not, though.
Maybe not. I think the most telling chapter symbols are Kaladin's and Shallan's for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Especially Shallan's.
Yeah. And the fun thing here, another little Easter egg, is if you look at the Jibble Tish or whatever you say, chapter 54, arch, you see that Hoid is up there because he appears in this chapter.
That dastardly dog.
That dastardly dog. That was a great little moment. But yeah, we should summarize, I think.
Yeah, Gibletish. I called it Gibletish earlier. Almost sounds like Giglamish. All right, so it's Dalinar in this chapter. Elhokar hosts a feast which Dalinar attends. Wit sits next to Dalinar and tips him off that Sadeas intends to reveal something at the feast. He tells Dalinar he has to leave and disappears. Dalinar gathers Adolin and his guards about him just in case, then goes to confront Sadeas and see what the announcement is. Sadeas announces to all present that the strap was definitely cut, but that it happened while the horse was in the king's palace complex. He says that Dalinar is an unlikely suspect. After the announcement, Sadeas and Dalinar discuss their estranged friendship and the war. Dalinar admits to having called for retreat, but says that he now favors finding a tactic to win the war once and for all instead. He proposes an alliance with Sadeas, sketches out some preliminary ideas for how they could complement each other, and Sadeas agrees. It's so funny because I think that this summary does a disservice to the most interesting part of this chapter, which is not even really talked about right here. Of course, this chapter is about Sadeas and Dalinar and Strap, the ever loving Strap.
The Strap returns.
At least it's almost over. It feels like we're coming to a close on it. Thankfully.
Is it weird? I kind of missed the Strap dude. Am I getting some like Stockholm?
Yeah, you've been gaslit by Jake into thinking that it's Dees, when in fact it's not.
Maybe
Dees.
I kind of like the Strap.
Oh my god.
Maybe I like the Strap more than Era 2.
Oh my god. Don't say things you can't take back, dude.
Okay, I won't. I apologize. Sorry, I was I need you to refresh me, because I was because I got a little theory brewing from this chapter, and I was getting some evidence while you were reading the summary.
Okay.
So you're saying this wasn't really about that. What part did the summary miss?
Oh, well, it completely misses whatever Hoid is basically saying, like, hey, like, things are brewing, things are about to get bad, and then it kind of says some weird stuff to Dalinar after that. Absalom, or how do you say it?
Adonalsium, yes.
Adonalsium, which honestly, I need you to refresh me.
I will. I love this scene because what Hoid's doing is checking if Dalinar is cosmere aware. He's like, Dalinar, have you read the Coppermind? Because he's probably hearing about the visions and stuff, and he's like, oh, so Dalinar might know a few things. Like, let's see. Mm-hmm. So, he like sidles up to him, and then he's like, he just says Adonalsium. He just like looks him in the eye, Adonalsium, and Dalinar's like, what? And Wit searches his face. Have you ever heard of the term, Dalinar? It's like, Ado, what? So Adonalsium is just like the original, when all the shards were together as one.
That's what I thought.
Adonalsium before the shattering. Which, now that I'm reading it, with this whole Dalinar uniting shards theory, wouldn't it be cool if there was a scene in The Way of Kings where Hoid talks to him about the shards all united, as he does here? It could be a cool foreshadowing moment, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
And then Wit just starts going off with these Coppermind knowledge, and he's like, "Oh, you could pull people apart like a Dissian Amian." And a Dissian Amian. Let me just make sure I get my Amians right. I'm just going to quickly refer. Yeah, the Sleepless, the Kremling people. So they're getting a shout out in this chapter too, which made me very happy.
Which we love to see.
Yes, which we love to see. So basically, I took this as Hoid is like checking Dalinar to see like how much he knows, and he realizes he doesn't know much. But then he has to head off somewhere, although I'm not sure where that is. I know we get in a few chapters he visits Kaladin with the whole Wonder Sail flute story thing. So I don't think he's going that far.
Yeah, I thought maybe he would be meeting up with Yasna possibly, or this is an interesting idea. And this is what I was thinking. So there are people hunting Hoid. We know this now from the interludes. Do you think one of them were close in this instance?
That could be fun if they were there. I was looking very closely in this chapter for sus, because he's describing a lot of people. I didn't spot one. I'm also thinking now in the next chapter, Sigzil mentions like his old master doesn't know he's around. So I think also, I don't know if they have a chat in a few chapters as well. Maybe he's off to chat to Sigzil. I think it's a mystery we'll find out very shortly, and we're just not remembering it. But what he says to Dalinar here, he goes, watch yourself, Dalinar. Life becomes dangerous, and you're at the center of it. What's that about?
Well, and this is one of the things that I'm wondering. So he also says, if you ever by chance like piece somebody, like tear them apart and then put them back together, right? He says something like that, right?
Yeah.
So I was thinking Honor was torn apart, and then Dalinar pieces it back together.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's talking about shards. He's talking about putting stuff back together. It feels relevant to Dalinar's arc.
Yeah,
unite them. So it's all pieces that could be put together to a pretty solid theory. But I think also, I don't know if they have a chat in a few chapters. I think it's a mystery we'll find out very shortly, and we're just not remembering it. So And he's saying it to Dalinar. He goes, if you do put a man together like that, Dalinar, be sure to name him Gibberish after me, or perhaps Gibbletish. I don't get that. I think that's just Hoid being Hoid. But yeah. And then Dalinar's like, is that your real name?
He's like, nope, I've given up on my real name.
Yeah. He has a lot of names. Although he name drops Hoid here, so for the people who didn't know yet, we know it's Hoid. Interesting scene, man.
Interesting scene. I had a more literal interpretation as well about the tearing apart.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember exactly why it made me feel this way, but I was thinking that maybe, just maybe, this is like a foreshadowing for Dalinar, like bringing Kaladin back to life after he's torn apart or something like this. You know what I mean? Because it talks about like reassembling the man and making him whole and this and that. And I was just thinking, like, if Dalinar were to ascend, would he have the ability to possibly heal Kaladin, or maybe even heal his, his inner struggles with depression, possibly? You know what I mean? Like, maybe those two things could be linked.
Yeah, I feel like in a sense Dalinar is doing that in a long time scale, especially in Rhythm of War. Like, he's very knowledgeable about Kaladin's mental state and gives him time off, and he gets it, and then it could grow into something else if Dalinar were to take up a shard. Yeah, I could see it. I think this is definitely, like, it's just pretty in your face, this conversation, and it feels like Sanderson's, everything's intentional. Obviously, we're still in the first book, and I feel like something from this moment will be we can look back and be like, oh yeah, bit of a foreshadowing moment.
Yeah, this is definitely one to keep in the memory bank as something that maybe we will be returning to after Stormlight 5. I feel like there's going to be something to connect back to this very moment. I really do.
And I was skipping ahead a few pages now, and probably for more evidence for the death rattle being about Taln, when Hatham asks Dalinar which devotary he credits, he goes the order of Dalinar or whatever. So he's mentioned in this chapter, which makes me feel like the epigraph's definitely about him.
Yeah, I would agree as well. And we hear about this, kind of conflict about, religion. Is it money? Is it just tribalism? And then Dalinar, and I actually thought this was kind of funny. He's like, have y'all heard of the Feverstone Keep? And they're like, what? And he's like, never mind.
Yeah, I know. For me, like, this is like, see what I mean? That's like solid, a little, snicker moment. Like, oh yeah, Dalinar. Like, so
yeah, like Dalinar being a big goof.
Yeah, like that's funny. That's funny. Not Wayne being like, oh yeah, wax isn't like Feverstone Keep. It looks like a bit of a, can't do it on the podcast, but you know where that was going.
Yes,
a Wayne joke. So yeah, that was not. Yeah, Dalinar was like really trying to join in the conversation, not working.
Well, he's also like hearing these people who have all this knowledge of all this other area. Like, by the way, Feverstone.
It's just like Feverstone, right? No, that's the thing. Dalinar, man, I love him. So yeah, another mysterious moment as we get into strap territory. Be careful, guys. We're entering strap territory. As Sadeas is about to address everybody, it says, and yet in a powerfully surreal moment, Dalinar felt that he'd done the correct thing. He'd never felt it as strongly as at that moment, preparing to be condemned. This description felt very Sando, very like, I didn't know what to make of it, but it's like, why in this moment is he like, oh, I've done the right thing by trusting Sadeas? Why did he know? Because it does turn out in his favor. And it was a surreal feeling.
And does Wit have anything to do with this, with Wit setting him up to basically go confront Sadeas? Like, he knew Dalinar would confront him. Like, that's who Dalinar is. So does Wit have something to do with that feeling?
Right, yeah, like, because Wit basically like made this scenario happen. He just planted the seed in Dalinar's head and off he went.
Yeah.
I like that. I like what you said. Is there
Hey,
some
thanks.
is there some Mistborn mind tricks happening here? Because we've seen Hoid use
Ooh.
Mistborn mind tricks before. So maybe he's doing some
We
soothing
have?
or writing. Oh yes, we have. Well, we know that Hoid can use the metals because in a Shallan flashback in Words of Radiance, he slips some metal in his drink and
Oh.
does some little magic there, which is very fun. Um, but
Hmm.
this actually got interesting. The whole strap thing got interesting for a different reason, and I started to pick up on something that I've yet to pick up on. This was new for me. So when he's checking the strap, he's like, "Yes, making a shard bearer fall off his horse is whatever. He'll be fine." But then he's like, 8 of the 10 sapphires used to infuse his plate were cracked following the battle. What's that about? Why was so many cracked?" And I was like, somebody was using Stormlight. Somebody was emptying spheres in this moment. That's why they were cracked.
Oh, and
And
and who?
well, there's two people, Elhokar and Dalinar, both of which are future Radiants. Elhokar doesn't quite get there, but even before Kaladin says the words, he's using Stormlight. So that's evidence to say you can use it before saying your oaths. So either Elhokar did after he fell, or Daddy Dalinar, which I think is the more likely option, was because he was holding a freaking chasm fiend's foot at bay during that whole time.
Yeah.
And then if you go back to that chapter, my friend, if you go back to that chapter, which is what I was doing when you're reading the summary, just to make sure I had this right.
Okay.
When Adolin's watching Dalinar, it says Dalinar held back the claw and matched its strength, a figure in dark, silvery metal that almost seemed to glow. Ooh. Dalinar
And we
glowing in
missed
that
that.
scene?
And we
Yeah, we
missed.
did miss that. We did. What were we doing? Because it says silvery metal that almost seemed to glow. I think we just assumed it is, like we just shard plate stuff. But now that we're mentioning the spheres being all cracked, I reckon Dalinar was feeling himself even more in that moment.
Yeah. I
That's what I
can't
feel
believe I
like.
missed that though. That feels like something I would have.
Yeah, like seemed to glow. Is what we always pick up on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. That was chapter 13, so that's many an episode ago. Maybe we can go back and see if we mentioned it, but it wasn't highlighted in my copy.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think I feel like I would have remembered that.
mm. But yeah, I think that's why the spheres are gone.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
So that's a fun, neat thing. Unless someone else was sabotaging his armor, but I don't think so. I think it's
I don't
another
think so either.
someone using Stormlight in the background moment. So that's cool.
Yeah, that is really cool.
My favorite line, which I think you'll appreciate, from Sadeas, no less. When he's talking to Dalinar, he goes, "The problem is Elhokar kept on and on about that blasted strap." So even he's over it.
Even he's done with it.
It's like, far out, this kid in the strap. So yeah, we're putting a pin in it, guys, until it rears its ugly, strappy head again.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. I mean, what do you think of Sadeas here?
Okay, look, I don't remember exactly how all this goes down, to be honest. I know Sadeas, he's a slimy little bastard and he's going to betray us at some point. But does he have good intentions here? I don't remember. I just remember thinking, this feels too easy, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, so we have already had a scene with Sadeas that gave him a little bit more nuance back a few chapters ago, and I think this is kind of adding on to it a little bit more. And I think even Dalinar maybe is thinking of himself as maybe being a little bit too brash, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of a tug of war with Sadeas, as it usually is whenever you have a power struggle between two higher born people.
Yeah, and like we kind of escape the Dalinar headspace for a while because we're so caught up in him and Adolin's paranoia about and hatred of Sadeas. It's a shocker when he basically clears his name and it's all cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sadeas just misses his boy from the Oathbringer flashbacks. He even says it here. He's like, "Man, I'd kind of would like to see the Blackthorn again."
Yeah.
If only, if only. He's not.
Sometimes people change.
Sometimes people change, man. So look, I think it's a good deal. Although I don't remember exactly how it goes down. I know Sadeas is obviously a major antagonist, but I kind of, he seemed okay. He seemed all right at this moment,
Yeah, just continuing to make this even more of a complicated relationship in this chapter.
Yeah, but was there anything else that stood out to you in this one, or are we seeing our boy Cal?
No, not really. I think we're going to go to Kaladin. The big thing was obviously Hoid and Dalinar. And the summary doesn't, it kind of glosses over the fact and really makes it sound like they only talk about Sadeas, which is not the more interesting part of the chapter, which is kind of funny. But that's why we're here. We're here to dive in a little bit deeper. So we're going to go to chapter 55 called An Emerald Brome?
I think it's Brome.
Bro, I like that.
Yeah, bro.
Cool. So we're in Kaladin's POV. Kaladin witnesses the first joint plateau assault of Sadeas and Dalinar. The fight goes so quickly and so well that Bridge 4 is sent down into the chasms right after returning from the run. They find a dead, light-eyed officer who has an emerald brome worth 200 days of a bridgeman's pay, in addition to a pouch of lesser spheres. Kaladin hatches a plan to sneak the patch out of the chasms without surrendering it, but it hinges on the ability of someone to tie the pouch to an arrow and then shoot the arrow at the underside of a permanent bridge so it can be picked up later. As nobody else has the necessary proficiency with a bow, Rock finally admits that he can make the shot and nails it perfectly, all while insisting that he may shoot bridges with it, but he will never use a bow in battle. Oh my.
Oh, will he?
Oh, Rocky. Oh, Rocky. Ye, we hardly knew ye. Yeah, so this is really cool for the fact that it immediately follows Dalinar and Sadeas' conversation, and then pretty much immediately we see the power that they can have if they put their squabbles aside. That if they were more united, as Dalinar is hoping to make them, that they would be far better off and be able to accomplish their goals. Now, whether or not their goals are actually righteous, we're not sure, because we get some context change for who's the good and bad people here. But I think this is really cool by Sanderson, not to wait 2, 3, 4, 5 chapters, but to immediately show that they're effective together.
Yeah, I like it. Let's ramp up the pace a little, Sando. Let's get it going, and it's great. It's great. You can feel the speed increasing. And there's like, in the same sense that the last chapter had the interesting Hoid stuff, I thought the Sigzil stuff was quite fun, just because we never visit a lot of these places. So hearing about them, I'm like, ooh, that's cool. Can we get a chapter there? And obviously Kaladin gets confirmation that he's like special. And
it's like real. Finally.
Yeah. Oh, and how about Rock, man? This guy is so sus. Like, the Horneater culture, he's like, I'm hesitant to read it, but he said, like, when he's muttering a curse to himself, he goes, "Oh, Cullen's ghost" or something. I'm like, who is that? Tell me more about your culture. Why, and why aren't you allowed to kill?
And now we're not getting the Rock novella for quite some time. We thought it was going to be this year.
I know. Oh man, the Horneater is very interesting. They're right near a perpendicular, Hardy. They see world hoppers quite a bit. I think that, like, I mean, they can see Spren. They're half Parshendi. Like, there's so much lore juiciness with them.
Yeah.
So he's like, when you first read it, he's like, oh, he's the big, brutish, lovable, guy, And now I think, yes, he is all that, but he's also like the key to a lot of juicy Stormlight lore. And I'm always reading closely with him. And the trouble is, all the bloody terms are like 24 letters long, and you look them up and there's not much about them. So yeah, I think he's going to have a world hopper arc. Nobody's getting a novella after Stormlight 5 without hopping some worlds,
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. I'm trying to think what else we should point out with this chapter. I looked up a lot of the names that popped up, like when Kaladin's thinking about who he
There's so
didn't
many
save.
names mentioned in this chapter.
Yeah, right. He's like, oh, when I couldn't save Nalma, and she was, looking into her, she was an older woman that you see in his, I think in one of the old, I think do we get extra Kaladin flashbacks like later in the series?
I think so.
Yeah.
Here, so Kaladin often thought of Nama later in life as one of the people that he had failed to protect. She came to mind at times when his friends were in danger or when he himself was being hunted. Hers was one of the names that came to his mind when he attempted to say his fourth ideal of the Windrunners at the Battle of Thaylen Fields. He also thought of her when he was posing as a captive of the Singers who were freed by the Everstorms, since he was also considered them runaway slaves.
That's probably the scene I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
When he was like a slave again, somewhat in Oathbringer. Yeah, but then we have on the Coppermine, we have this like extreme description of like what happened with her, and the citation is Oathbringer chapter 97. So maybe there is a scene with her. Maybe there is.
Yeah, there has to be some sort of flashback. Maybe not flashback, at least a recollection, right?
Yeah. Maybe that. Regardless, we get a lot of Moash broing out. He's like, hey, I like Kaladin now, guys. Don't doubt him.
Trying to form that relationship so he can tear it apart later.
Yeah, exactly. Again, great connections with Sando through the chapters, because like this is the town that they were talking about previously when Dalinar's like, hey, have you heard of Eavestone Keep? They were talking about this town that Kaladin flew over and that Sigzil is talking about. So something's in the air that this is on topic. And then they bring up the Dawncities, and they're like these natural formations or whatever that.
Yeah, that was the most interesting piece of lore from this chapter. Also, Feverstone Keep I think it's called Feverstone Keep, is what Dalinar saw in his last flashback.
Yeah,
where it started coming up, and now it's just getting repeated constantly. But the Dawncities, I mean, what do you got on these?
The Dawncities, I believe it's all to do with, like, you know how Incel Capsule had his little sand display, and all these like glyph city patterns. I believe there's something going on like that, where it's like epic Rosharian history with heralds and shards left like cool patterns on the ground or the rock. Or there's the other thing is the Dawnsingers, like the first Parshendi, the first listeners. It's said that they could like mold Roshar. They could like mold the stones and stuff, which is interesting because when Shen's freaking out about the corpse, what do they say here? Because I highlighted here. Yeah. So they grow irate if anyone else handles the bodies. They wrap them in linen and carry them out into the wilderness and leave them on slabs of stone. And we had those scenes with Venli where she heard the old Dawnsingers in the stone. And then we've got these Dawncities that they could mold from stone. So, that's what I'm gathering. It's like the original, like, old school cities built by the singers.
This is definitely something that's significant.
Yeah. Here, let's see if we can pull up some good info here. So the Dawncities. Dawncity is a term used to describe a city on Roshar that is old enough to be able to trace the origin of said city all the way back to the Dawnsingers. Yeah, so the original listeners. As of 1173, discussing the Dawncities had recently become fashionable among Alethi Lidites. And then, Hatham's wife studied them, and they talk about this city that Siggs was talking about, saying that could be a Dawn city. It is believed that many have been created by the Dawnsingers, making use of early forms of stone shaping to shape cities in stone. They may have also been created with the use of surge binding, although they are beyond the scope of what a single group of Radiants could create using the power of soul casting. Interesting. So that's cited to an answer from Brandon.
So good chance maybe we see a little bit more about this whenever we get book 5.
I'd say so. Stones. I'm telling you, the highlight of book 5 is going to be the stones. I'm calling it right now.
Hope you guys are ready about Book of Limestone. It's going to be sick.
Oh, dude. The limestone's freaking fire. One last thing. Kaladin does spot some Kremlings scuttling along the wall watching. Basically just me and Jimmy visiting the chapter. That's us.
They're listening.
We're taking notes. And then I like how Kaladin's like, guys, stop being so paranoid. We have to trust each other. We're Bridge 4. Nothing's going to stop us. And then Seal's like, hey, you want me to watch him? He's like, yeah. Just keep it. See, that's funny.
That is funny.
Yeah. He's like, watch those sus little bastards. Someone's going to take it.
That's what I'm trying to tell you, y'all. I'm telling you. Stormlight's where it's at. This is Brandon at his best.
Stormlight's the best. I love it. Sorry, man. I feel like I've hijacked this.
No, not at all. I mean, a lot of this stuff is us kind of picking up pieces that we find to be interesting, but we really don't have answers for a lot of this stuff yet. And we're thinking that some of it is going to be in book 5. But this is probably gonna be a pretty common theme as we go through the books. Yeah, there's gonna be things where like, this is interesting, but we don't quite have a full blown theory for it, or we haven't completely ironed out what its significance is going to be in the larger Stormlight Archive narrative. So it's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Does that mean we're moving on to a Spanreed for the week?
Yes. When we get to this part of the episode, we cover the chapter recaps. We've been doing a consistent Spanreed, and this week is no different. This one is from Dusty, and it has to do with Kaladin, which I very much like. Dusty Spanreed reads, how's it going, guys? Dusty from Texas. Love the podcast. Well, thank you, Dusty. I appreciate you. So the Kaladin being a return theory is really cool. What if Tanavast, before being splintered, had a plan in place, much like Preservation had a plan to deal with Ruin in the first Mistborn trilogy? Kaladin is said to be extremely tall, even by Alethi standards, and the High Storms could serve as his breath, making sure he doesn't die. I'm just saying the math is mathing, and remember to keep them safe hands covered. We always do here, Dustin. We appreciate you sending this Spanreed in. A nice short theory, but we've been reading Mistborn lately. I thought this was a good one to pull in because I've been thinking a lot about Preservation and Ruin.
Yes.
What do you think of this?
Interesting, because the return thing is interesting because that's a what's it called? Warbreaker thing.
Yes, and I've been saying that I felt like there was a chance that we were going to see Gavilar again because of some Warbreaker crossover.
Was it you who told me about the theory, like how the statues?
Yes,
because the soul-casted statues
that he is going to come awaken from a statue of himself.
That's freaking epic. That'd be awesome.
I still am a believer of that theory. Until I'm proven wrong, I'll ride or die for it. But Kaladin being a return is not something I had ever heard.
No, I've never heard that before. Because I'm reading the email now. I pulled it up. So as far as we're told, Tanavast's plan was basically the Stormfather. That's his plan, to go into that, show some visions every now and then to a colon. But he's really tall. The high storms could serve as his breath, making sure he doesn't die. The thing is, I'm going to get all cosmere nerdy, but there's a lot of correlation between mists and breath and stormlight. It's all kind of the same thing in a sense, or a version of the same thing. So Stormlight is breath for kind of all radiance to some degree, or a breath equivalent. So even though it's a cool theory, I'm kind of shooting it down this week.
Dang, Dusty, you hear that?
I'm sorry, Dusty. I mean, it would be really cool, but I just think Returned isn't it. Although I like the idea of Returned on Roshar somewhere. I like the statue thing.
Just took a big old steaming Kremlin crap on that one, huh?
Hey, I like to entertain them, but I got to get more discerning in my old age.
I mean, what I like about this theory is that it gets us kind of thinking about Returned, and therefore pivots into my favorite theory of Gavilar being a Returned, and I like it. Yeah, the whole high storm serving his breath, and then you kind of can tying that in like stormlight and breath, mist, all this stuff is kind of this. It's the same but different, like manifested differently on these planets. Has me thinking that if there's even a more fundamental thing, you know what I mean, like than Spren.
Investiture, your favorite word.
Oh no! Oh no!
It's all just investiture, my friend.
Okay, so we have that. That is the common denominator then.
Yeah, like investiture is just what it is, and then how it manifests. It's like, oh, the mists, oh, the stormlight. Oh,
I gotcha.
Yeah, the breaths. So, yeah. I'm going to be wild and chuck in another Spanreed, mate. I'm going to throw a curveball at you.
Okay.
I was just perusing the Spanreed archive, and I just pulled out a good one here. All right, so this one's from Daniel. Hello, fellow Kremling lovers. I was listening to the latest episode on the interludes, and when you mentioned that Risen says there are no Spren in Shinovar, and I remembered the discussion about the lack of Spren in the prologue. Just a little theory, and it may not go anywhere other than this, but what if the prologue is in Shinovar? That would explain how the Shin got the honor blades, right? Not sure if this has been discussed anywhere before, but it made sense in my head as you guys were talking. Anyway, keep those safe hands covered and one eye on those Kremlings. Daniel. Cheers, Daniel. Those safe
That
hands
is, I'm going to go, that's canon. How about that?
I'm saying it too, man. That's like canon. That's a slam dunk. No shade to Dusty here, but Daniel's come in with, you know.
Now we're pitting the listeners against each other? My God.
Daniel v. Dusty segment. And Giancarlo just walks in. I have an urgent message. I come to you urgently.
We should each pick a Spanreed and then battle for which one is.
Yes,
superior.
We should do that, like a theory battle.
Maybe that'll be an episode. We'll do an episode maybe between books.
I would love that, dude.
We do a theory battle, and we each pick like 2 or 3. I like that idea. Yeah. I really like this, and I think it explains away the Spren thing. Because there's no way it's like this big plot hole. Like I just don't think
no.
That would honestly be embarrassing if that were the case. And Shinovar has so much history to it, and where we think that they landed there, and there's pieces of kind of, we'll say Earth. I know it's not Earth, but you know what I'm trying to say. Ash. So this is true. How about that? I'm gonna say it's true.
I agree with you. I truly, yeah. It's in Shinovar. It's the only place we haven't seen Spren, and he's connected the dots for us. We did the research, but we needed a third eye to be like, you know what, guys, this is what's going on. I like it. And
that's why we leave some of the stuff open ended. We say like, what do you guys think? Or we pick it up. I this seems cool. Not sure why. And then someone just takes another set of eyes to look at it very plainly and say, oh, well, they're playing Shinovar. Like, oh yeah, good point.
The slam dunk for me is that Seth's family and in Shinovar are the honor blades.
Yeah. Like, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So I haven't heard that either. I haven't heard that anywhere. Like I said, we get the best, juiciest theories in the Spanreed archive.
Yeah, we're the best. We're the best Stormlight adjacent thing on the internet. Time to close.
We've reached there again. That segment of the podcast.
If you say it long enough, it'll come true.
Okay. Okay, I'm getting an advanced copy of Stormlight 5. Confirmed. You know what? I wouldn't even know what to do with an advanced copy. I wouldn't know what to do with myself.
I don't want an advanced copy.
No. I want to be there in the Kremling hive mind with everyone else. Having said that, though, I was thinking about this week. What Sando does is he releases chapters, right? You pretty much get all of part 1 by the time the book's out. And I feel like, because he does it weekly, I mean,
the podcast is going to have to pivot to that. And honestly, it's also going to bring in a lot of new listeners who are looking for breakdowns or read-alongs with the book. We obviously won't be doing that. Well, I don't know. Do we do that for the new book? We might as well just figure this out on air. We had talked about when book 5 came out that obviously we're going to pause the reread and we were going to read the new book and we were probably going to review it in parts, I think is what me and you had said, didn't we?
Yep.
Or talk about the book as a whole, maybe. Should we just do the book?
No, chapter by chapter.
Chapter by chapter?
I think we should do, as the chapters are coming out weekly, we should do it weekly.
And then, you're right.
And then jump to all right, part 2 discussion, part 3 discussion.
And I think, I'm going to be honest, I think part 2, part 3, part 4, I don't know if that's actually going to work because I think because we're going to read the book, right? We're going to have it done after it's out. I think like doing weekly episodes, like we're gonna want to talk about it all. I think we're just gonna have,
All right.
and we're gonna reread it anyways at some point, and really dive like into the chapters and sections. So I think what we should probably just do is do the chapter releases. So when those start, that's what this podcast will be for a while, and then we will just review the whole book.
Okay, I like it, and then we can there'll be topics within the book maybe for episodes. Let's talk about the battle. Let's talk about
yes, definitely.
Let's talk about all our theories that were totally right.
Yeah, I think maybe we decided to do parts because we were worried like how fast we would read it. Like we were probably worried, but if we get all part 1 done, I don't have to read 3 more parts. I think I can read.
It's about 1,000.
I'll read that book in a week. Let's be honest. I'm reading that book in a week.
In a week, yeah. Like it's the one time in my life where I'm considering taking time off for a book. I think I just need to sit down. When Frodo gets the ring and then Gandalf rides to the library and there's that whole montage of him going through all the scrolls. That's going to be me. That's me in the week of December 6th or whatever.
But you're much more endearing than Gandalf. Let's be honest.
Hey, what's this shade at Gandalf? What is this about?
I'm not going shade at Gandalf. I'm just saying you're a scholar and a gentleman, and there's few of us left.
I'm a scholar and a Kremling, mate.
A scholar and a Kremling.
Yes.
Love to see it.
And with that, guys, I think it's quickly going off the rails, so we better wrap this thing up. As always, guys, thank you for accompanying us on this episode of Lost in Roshar. Remember, the most important chapter a man can read is the next one. We'll see you next time as we dive into chapter 56 and 57.
If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, be sure to leave us a review on whichever platform you listen on. Help us out greatly. And if you have feedback or if you have spanreeds, please send it to lostandroshar@gmail.com. We'll see you next time on Lost in Roshar. And remember, folks, please, for the love of all that is holy, keep that safe and covered.